All right, everybody, welcome back to the KSR YouTube channel. Same intro. Do you guys get tired of that? I don't know. Kind of feel like, kind of getting into a rhythm here. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Let me know down in the comments if I should change things up a little bit. But anyways, if you look around behind me, you guys can see I'm over at Will's shop again, at his house, which obviously means we've got some work to do on SoccerMom. And he's finished up some of the wiring for the rear end, like the drive shaft speed sensor. Got that from Motion Raceworks, as well as our shock sensor. Got that wired up. That's a low dollar motorsports shock sensor. And I think pretty much all of the wiring is done. I know we talked about that. Transmission being done. You can see our oil temps under there. Wiring, I mean, not tight, but he's got the alternator wire done, looks like. And all of the engine wiring is done. If you saw that in one of the previous episodes, or if you didn't see it, go back and check out the previous episode about SoccerMom's wiring. But today, we got a little talking to do about the block, which is now back in our possession. Gonna show you a little bit of what we changed, and then hopefully by the end of this video, we're cranking it up. Yeah, exciting video. It's getting last minute if you can't tell by the release date of this video, but let's get to it. All right, well, as you may can see, I got a new hat on. It's got the KSR logo on it, and it's the American themed trucker hat. Not gonna lie, we've been waiting for these for a while. There's like some other YouTubers that sell these too. You guys may or may not see them from time to time, but we had a hard time getting them at our people we use for our hat stuff. But we finally got a batch of them, and we will have them at Bristol, and we will have a few at LS Fest if we don't sell out of all of them at Bristol. But if you want one now, go ahead and go to winwithksr.com and pick you up one of those. Also got a few other little things on there that I don't know if I'll talk about this video, but maybe some new shirt flavors. Old shirt, but new colors. Anyways, go check it out. And while you're here, please subscribe. Helps me out, helps keep the channel growing. Got to keep this thing going. I mean, eventually we got to get to at least 500,000. Right, but right now the 300,000, that's right there. It's only just a little bit away, but hopefully we'll get there pretty soon. Anyways, enough with all that. Our block is back. We took it down to Muscle Machining in Largo, Florida, which, it's a 2.5 hour ride, but it's a buddy of a buddy. Nate actually sent us down there, and he saw in one of my videos where I was looking for somebody to do our machining for the hoops, that and he knew that they had the equipment to do it. So if you look kind of close, that right there is a machined groove down into the block. It's right at the edge of the sleeve because, well, for one, we're using a copper head gasket, but then in the cylinder head, let's see if we can make it show in video. Yeah, you can see that ring right there, that hoop sticks up out of the cylinder head. And the idea is for the ring, the hoop sticking out of the cylinder head is going to squish this gasket down into these grooves and give us really good cylinder head seal. Now, obviously mistakes were made with the car at Sick Week. I've owned that. It happens. And had we not, or had I not been stupid, probably wouldn't have hurt the engine or the head gasket. But while we had it apart, why not upgrade it so that hopefully we can lean on it even harder. So if you saw in a previous episode, we did 1/2 inch head stud upgrade, and obviously welded up the block. We've got to re-drill our coolant passage where it goes. Which, let's see, we're pushing more water through the back of the block. So we need to drill that hole out right there from where I welded it up. And the way this works, try to move more water to the back of the engine. So it's got larger holes back here than the front, since these can be put on upside down, right side up. But that's our gasket. So I'll show you now how all of these things line up. Which hopefully I can do that. Let's see if I can figure out how to hold this camera. All right, so ideally, all this stuff lines up. And as you can imagine, it takes a pretty serious piece of equipment to make sure that all these grooves are lined up, because if not, nothing lines up. Because you've got these machine circles where they have to mate together, otherwise the block would never go down, because it would be pinching the gasket between the cylinder head, and it wouldn't be mashing the gasket into the block. But so as you can see, there is absolutely no gap. I don't know if that's focused or not, but she's down there nice and tight. Maybe that shows it right there better. Yeah, that does. Nice and tight, and hopefully very well sealed. Switching away from the MLS gaskets for a couple of reasons. The copper gaskets in some ways act like a fuse. The MLS gaskets that have, the stainless steel layers in them, well, they are stronger, higher temperature to burn them, to melt them, than the cylinder head or the block. So with a copper gasket from like Will's old big block had Copper Head gaskets in it, a lot of serious stuff, all Top Fuel stuff has Copper Head gaskets in it, which you saw maybe back in my video with Clay Milliken at the track. But the idea is that it'll just sneeze the gasket out of it and not hurt the things around it. Obviously we don't want to hurt the gasket at all. And it's not that the gasket failure point is lower with the copper gasket, because we wouldn't want that. But it is, when it does reach failure point, it just takes the gasket out, because the gasket goes before the block or the heads. We'll leave this here with Willie. And like I said, I'm headed back to the shop. He's actually just getting off of work. We're gonna cross paths in the driveway probably. So see you guys back when we're putting the motor in. All right, so we're back at Will's shop next day. And aside from our engine install, we're swapping our gear back.
You set it anywhere, it's pouring on you, dude.
Oh no, we're making a mess. Missed. Well, my battery went dead right in the middle of all that excitement of pulling the rear end out of SoccerMom. That's how it goes. Will's already cleaned up the mess. So we're putting our 410 gear back in the car. We had built a complete new diff for Sick Week, but this is our 410. It's actually an old Mark Williams case from Will's car. Got our Motion Raceworks drive shaft collar on it. I sent the gears out to have them polished. It's supposed to make them stronger. I had them cryo treated and then this rim polishing done.
You want to pull the
It's party.
head back off?
Yeah, and we decided to torque the cylinder heads on before we assembled the rest of the engine. We wanted to check the impression on the gasket, make sure everything's squished down in the groove, everything was aligned right, and just double checking things. So gonna pull that off right now, and then we'll show you what happened to the gasket. All right, so we snatched the cylinder head off. Probably isn't gonna show in the video too well, but you can kind of see an indication there. The gasket mashed down into the grooves in the block. Thing looking like it's supposed to. There's actually kind of this very light coating on this. It's like a seal coat. You can kind of see some of the spots, and it's, maybe you can hear it, but it's actually sticky just a little bit. So when it gets crushed, it's like it almost turns to a little bit of a powder. And talking to a few people, they said to leave it on there. All the copper gaskets I've used before were just bare copper, and we sprayed stuff called copper coat on them. But that's not what we're doing with this one. So I think we're good enough. We may put a little cut on the bore here, because you can see this is where the chamber, the gasket fits the chamber. You can see it overhangs the bore by just a little bit, which that is shrouding the intake valve. So I think we're gonna maybe notch that just a little bit. See if we can unshroud the valves and make a little more power. Always gotta make more power. So we can sneeze the head gasket out of it even sooner. Anyways, back to work. All right, Kimber's got the rear end all put back together. Woohoo! Oh, we're taking something else apart. We didn't see that. It wasn't on camera. Except it was on camera.
We didn't put the lower block back in yet.
Oh, whoops. Oh yeah, because we're back in race mode now with our lowering blocks. Race mode. So we got the block washed up. We got a washed up crankshaft. Bearings are in, pre-oiled. It's time to drop the crankshaft in. Ready to drop cranking?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh. Hopefully this stays in there for a while. Pick your left hand up a little bit.
There we go. Yep. Perfect.
Yay.
Sweet.
If I remember right, this is a Callie's Dragon Slayer crankshaft, so a pretty good crankshaft got in the motor. And then we're using Callie's Ultra H-beam rods, some Wiseco pistons we got from BTR. And I did, like I was talking about a minute ago, I kind of put just a little bit of a notch on the side of the bore to try and keep the air flowing smoothly instead of hitting a wall. Yee.
Sorry.
We're making lots of noise. But we'll knock this thing back together. Slim chance she cranks today. Maybe. We'll see. All right, well, time for some engine assembly. So you got Will and I working on putting the engine together, and then you got Kimber in the background cranking on buttoning up the rear suspension after installing the lowering blocks. So it's got all kinds of stuff happening in this deal. And one good thing about how this engine deal has come apart and gone together and all this other stuff, the only thing that really got hurt on the 6 week screw up was the head gasket, the block, and the cylinder head. Everything looked really good in the bearings, and a lot of times, especially in higher horsepower engines, let me get that out of my mouth. In higher horsepower engines, you can tell by the rod bearings kind of how hard that cylinder is being abused. Like it'll actually damage the upper rod bearing, or it'll like the rod bearing won't snap into the connecting rod anymore. And we didn't have that. So it was kind of just like, I guess that really tells us the oiling system is doing its job really well. And just the conditions of this cylinder sealing and the head gasket were not. So anyways, you can see we're cranking along, get the crank all in and torque down. Start dropping some pistons in this thing. And I actually ran to the shop to grab something while this is going on, and am grabbing lunch for us. So Will and Kimber are knocking all the pistons in the thing, and that's going to get us another step closer to getting SoccerMom back together and up and running. You know, there's a pretty good chance this thing gets put together and cranks up by the end of this video, but you're going to have to stay tuned to see if we run into any problems along the way of reassembly here. So let's see what happens. All right, everybody, we have a short block assembled. So now it's time to strap some cylinder heads on. Got those over there ready. And if you noticed, it kind of went really fast. That's because we reused the bearings, so we didn't have to double check all those. And then Will had already got our new set of rings filed up. so that was already taken care of. So it was literally just down to the slapping it together stage. And now it's time to put some heads on it, and we're gonna drop it in the car and crank it. How about that?
Yeah.
Maybe. I think it's what, 2 o'clock?
Yeah.
Right at 2 o'clock. Sunday afternoon, we're watching some NASCAR. Chilling here in the AC because it's really hot outside.
It is hot outside.
But I mean, there's a chance, unless something goes wrong, we're probably cranking today. Maybe, we'll see. Stay tuned. Well, like I said, we're gonna drop the cylinder heads on this thing. Already got them on there. Put all the studs in it and then torque them all down. You'll notice I wait to put these studs on until after I've gotten the cylinder head down onto the block. So the dowels that I like to use, they're a solid cylinder head dowel, like the alignment dowels. And the cylinder heads are already kind of really tight on those when it gets down to that last little spot. And with the studs, you know, they've got to be perfectly straight. And they are perfectly straight, but when if you don't have the cylinder head and you're perfectly straight while you're sliding it on, things kind of bind up, and you know the cylinder head won't slide on easily. So since it's easy to install the head studs after the cylinder heads are on, you know, they've got a little Allen brooch in the end of them, or an Allen head brooch. You know, we just slide the cylinder heads on, then put all the studs in. We've got all the threads cleaned out in the block, so they thread in nice and easy. And it's easy just to put them on afterwards, and then put the washers and the nuts on it. And then now we're moving on to bolting all of the rockers on with the shaft rocker system. And we've got a little trick that is kind of a trick, but it's also adds a little bit more complexity to it. And I'll talk about it right now. All right, well, we now have a fully assembled long block, let's call it. Doesn't have the intake on it, but we need to lift the engine. I'm not sure if we're lifting from the cylinder heads. I don't remember how we do this car. Maybe we lift from the valley plate bolts. I don't have one of them fancy Motion Raceworks lift plates for an LS. Probably should buy one of those. But she's ready to go in. And if you saw, I had some time in adjusting or playing and messing with the rocker arms. So basically, we use the VTR shaft system, and to keep us from having to buy push rods every single time we do this, we shim about up to 10 thousandths is our maximum number that we want to be able to shim the entire rocker stand. So I've got these very, very thin shims here. These are 3 thousandths thick, and we ended up needing 7 thousandths to space the rocker pedestal stand up to get the proper amount of lift or preload that we wanted. This thing still has a hydraulic roller cam in it, but we use the Johnson short travel lifters, which want, I believe it's 25 to 30 thousandths of preload. So takes a little bit of measuring to make sure we get all that scienced out, but we've got a whole bunch of different shim packs that we've gotten. 7 thousandths, those are 5s, and then it's a 5, and this was a 3. These are some 3s here, real thin, but lets us get our preload perfect, which hopefully we got it right. Sometimes it's still a little bit of a mind melter to make sure that with the rocker ratios and adjustments and all that stuff, but we think it's right. So we're gonna get ready to drop it in. I gotta run to the shop and grab some exhaust gaskets because Will stole them and put them on his black 3rd gen over there. So I gotta go run and get some new ones from the shop. I ran to the shop earlier for lunch, but gotta go again. So 40 minutes, I'll be back. And knowing Kimber, he'll probably have the motor in. So I'm gonna set up a time lapse, see what they get done while I'm gone. I'll be back and we'll bolt the hot side on and just might crank this thing. Like, it's gonna start going real fast right about now. All right, everybody, well, we're ready to prime some oil. Probably should have done that mechanically, but it's so fresh because we literally just bolted the thing together. We know it's got assembly lube in all the bearings, drizzled some oil all over everything when we were putting it together, all over the lifters, all over the camshaft, all that stuff. So we're gonna just kick her over. Got all the plugs out of it, got the coils unplugged, injectors unplugged, so it's not gonna load it up with fuel. But we did check and see, we've got our EGTs working, switched over, got the dual injector programming all done. Need to adjust my offset for the oil pressure, but we'll do that later. Ready for me to try it?
You want to spin it from out here?
Sure, spin her right there.
Ready?
Yeah. Nothing yet, keep going. Got RPM, that's good. All right, keep it going, keep going. Yeah, there it is, woo! Got 200 RPM, we got, that was like 65 pounds of oil pressure on the starter.
Wait.
It's about time to kick this puppy off.
All right, let's put some plugs in it.
Well, let's put some spark plugs in it. Hook everything back up and see what happens. All right, here's the moment of truth. You want to push the button? We weren't expecting to get near this far today, and here we are trying to crank it. Kimmer had to run home because he had promised his wife a date tonight. So me and Will are here, and we're trying to get wrapped up by 6:30, or at least here at run by 6:30, and it is 6:36. Oh, Will's not going to push the button. Come on, crank. Okay, see this little check right here? Used for cranking fuel. Oops. Yeah. Probably had no fuel in it there, Captain Will. Because neither one of the injectors was selected for cranking fuel.
Didn't sound like it was getting any fuel.
That possibly is a problem. You know, we're rushing. We're trying to make this happen. Got a cycle of power because we changed some things and did some things. So
EF5 is great. Till it ain't.
it's really smart when the programmer is smart. So let's see what happens now. Yeah, there's an answer.
Here we go.
I don't sound happy.
Don't sound happy.
Let's look at the data log and see what we got going on. Well, sometimes things don't always go to plan. We're tired. We're gonna drop back and punt for today. I know, it's not like us to do that, but we've been at it since, well, Will's been out here since like 5:30 this morning. I got here at like 6:30 this morning, and it's 7 o'clock now, so we're kind of tired, we're not thinking straight. We're gonna oil the cylinders, just in case we wash them down with fuel, because the spark plugs are coming out a little wet. Kind of thinking we maybe had a little mismatch in the coil wiring at the firewall connector.
That'd be Will.
It happens. So should be an easy fix, but we're just gonna double check some things. It did run, so there's that. Makes good oil pressure. It's just not running on all 8 cylinders. All right, so we slept on it, looked at the data log, figured out which cylinders were giving us, well, which cylinders weren't running, and chased continuity on the coils back. Well, everything was good there, so thankfully that harness is not messed up. But we did find, now I've already started fixing it and then realized, you know what, I should film this. So we had mixed up, or actually Will did. I'm gonna blame it on Will. Will did it.
I did it.
Will did it.
Sorry.
So these,
Amateur.
don't say that, you work for KSR.
Oh,
Don't say that.
hey, amateur training.
So these plugs number in a circle. So number 1 is where that gray one is. across the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then this is 7 and 8 here, and then the powers, well, Will had done it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then 9, 10, 11, and 12 are the powers. So basically we robbed some injectors of power, and then we robbed a couple other injectors of signal, so they weren't working. So we're gonna flip this around. So that was kind of a good failure because basically they just weren't getting fuel, so it wasn't loading up the engine with fuel and, you know, possibly hurting our brand new ring set. But we re-oiled the cylinders just for that. So we're gonna flip some wires around here and try cranking it up again. Although we might wait a little bit because it's Florida, and yeah, that's happening outside. It's been rainy last few weeks here, so we definitely need the rain. I know a lot of other people need it more than we do, so hopefully you guys will get some soon too. All right, back to work. Get this thing cranked up again. All right, well, now that we've got our wiring flipped back around. All right, let's see if it sounds a bit more normal. Everybody ready? Clear? Yep. Fire and hole. Yeah, that sounds better. Golly. Pizza! Yeah! Alright, well, we ate us some pizza, hung out for a little bit, did some bench racing, and Will's gonna jump on this tomorrow. We got that one real good heat cycle in it, so he's going to take the headers back off, retorque the heads. Kind of one good thing about not having a 6-bolt block is we don't have to take the intake off, but we do have to take the shaft rocker system off. And that's a little bit of a pain with those little shims that we use under the rocker stand. So he's got that challenge to deal with tomorrow, but hopefully it all goes pretty smooth. And then he's gonna get the radiator put back in, water pump, water hoses, alcohol fuel pump. I had sent the Y off that we had fabricated years ago. I had sent that off for anodizing because raw aluminum, when it's exposed to alcohol and stuff, it kind of starts corroding, and we don't want that in the injectors because the Y was after the fuel filter. So got that to fix, and then probably I've got my kids this weekend, so can't really dyno it unless we did it Friday. I could do it Friday. Think everything goes together good Friday. I got a Lexus that we're putting together, so Guys, yeah, there's a big project coming with the Lexus, which we leave on Thursday, next Thursday.
No pressure.
So yeah, like a week and a half, and we've got a big project to do with the Lexus, which we start tomorrow, which will actually be today by the time this video comes out. Anyways, that's gonna do it for this video. Thanks for watching and subscribing. See you guys next time.